the next session we're going to talk about is actually energy and AI. So we've got David Reid with the Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute joining me. You're an AI machine learning specialist at Amii. So can you just tell me a little bit about what you're working on?
Yeah, so the actual title is machine learning scientist.
Oh, but, wonderful. Even better.
So basically at the Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute, we provide a bit of a bridge between like research and practical applications in industry.
Yeah.
So we work with a lot of partners in industry to bring like the AI into like deployment so that you can actually see some like real world impacts of it. So I work with clients who are pretty early in their AI journey. They're pretty well established businesses, and we help them to identify problems that are worth tackling in artificial intelligence, and then also to provide guidance and recommendations around what data they need to support that, and which kind of models are going to be best suited for those use cases.
Really interesting. So I imagine there's people watching this. Again, we've got people from all around the world watching this. They may not know much about what's happening at the University of Alberta in particular, or really what Amii is about. So, again, University of Alberta is top 2 in the world for
in artificial intelligence research. Yeah,
and so maybe a little bit about U of A, a little bit about Amii, and like that'd be great for people to hear.
Yeah, of course. So this is something that really started. Amii as a company started under a different name, which I think was the Alberta Innovates Center for Machine Learning or something like that, AICML. So that happened, I think, in 2002, so a little bit over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That was really an initiative supported by the government of Alberta to try to make the University of Alberta like a leading research space within the artificial intelligence. So there were a number of founding researchers who contributed to that, and founding Amii and the research initiative at the University of Alberta. And through that initiative, the U of A basically became the leader in the development of one of the 3 central branches of artificial intelligence. So there's supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and reinforcement learning. And like the largest innovations in the reinforcement learning space have been at the University of Alberta, with researchers there. And reinforcement learning is something that's it's sort of the closest to the way that humans end up learning. So you basically provide a reward for particular behaviors, and then you get the algorithm to attempt to do something over and over again until it gets it approximately right.
Yeah, fantastic. And again, we'll get into your work in a second, but I just wanted to highlight too that we've got people like Richard Sutton here, Michael Bowring, Patrick Pilarski, some of the absolute world-leading researchers, and also doing real practical work. Adam White, Martha White, all of these, really top researchers, practitioners in the world in AI and machine learning.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so when we first were chatting, I asked you about research, and you said, research isn't my thing. Really what I'm about is how do we do the practical application of AI machine learning into industry? And this, again, being the largest hydrogen conference in North America, one of the biggest ones in the world, there's practitioners here from the industry side. So can you talk a bit about what are you doing to link what you're working on to actually help industry adopt AI and machine learning?
Yeah, so in the energy space specifically, we've done some projects with some fairly large grid operators. Once again, I can't say exactly who, just because we have an NDA associated with all of our clients. But to calculate demand on in 3 days in advance, so that they can determine whether or not they need to purchase energy from providers interstate. We've also done a number of projects in the oil and gas industry in terms of preventing methane leaks to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in that space. More broadly, there's a lot of applications of AI in hydrogen generation itself. So we haven't done any projects in this, but I've seen a lot of research in terms of optimizing the process of producing hydrogen, in terms of the conditions, pressure, temperature, etc. And then also in terms of materials research. So coming up with better catalysts to like support the reaction, as well as like materials for hydrogen storage.
Wow, that's fantastic. Well, again, people probably know that the Edmonton region is home to some of the world's largest projects in hydrogen. Air Products is building the world's largest net zero hydrogen facility right now. Linde this morning just announced another global or world scale hydrogen production facility that they're hoping to have at FID later this year. Again, some of the biggest projects in the world are happening. And it makes sense that we start to layer in the AI expertise into building these out.
Yeah, and so one of the things, I'm going to make something of a bold claim here, which is
Please,
that,
we love that.
So without artificial intelligence, the transition to renewable energies is something that's not going to be practical, or it's not going to happen.
Wow. Okay, break that down. What do you mean by that?
So for one thing, traditional fossil fuel based industries for energy production are much more predictable and scalable in the sense that you have much more control over when you generate electricity and where you generate it. So solar and wind, in particular, are very weather dependent.
Right.
So and in particular, they're weather dependent in a way that that doesn't match demand. So it's much more challenging to match energy generation to energy usage.
Right. The sun shines during the day, the winds blow.
Yep.
Often when it gets really cold, the winds don't blow. So you need to maximize all of that.
Yep. So that increases the need for both reliable storage in the form of solutions like hydrogen, and then also for prediction of when that demand is going to be, like as well as like the cheapest times to be generating like energy storage, and when you should be like drawing from that store in order to keep up production.
Oh, that's fascinating. We talk a lot about supply demand and load on the grid and all these things. I hadn't actually thought about the role that AI can play inside that. So are there projects that you're aware of coming out of here or other parts of the world that are really looking at incorporating AI into that?
Well, I mean, AI has been like a central part of energy demand prediction basically since national grids have been a thing, because there's always been a requirement to match load usage to generation. So the early forms of those kinds of forecasting were a little bit less sophisticated. They relied on like simple models like linear regression or ARIMA. But as the energy demands have become more complicated, particularly with the decentralization of energy production, so the production of energy on people's rooftops, for instance, like with rooftop solar, that has significantly complicated like the forecasting landscape, which means that like more sophisticated methods incorporating lots of additional variables are required. And like one of the key examples that I like to bring up is like in the UK. Even going back like 40 years ago, they needed to look to watch primetime TV in order to predict, like basically to watch when people went to an ad break, because during that time it was very common for like the population to just go and start making a cup of tea. So to turn on the kettle, which meant that there was a significant spike in like electricity consumption like around like prime time ad breaks.
Right. Probably also like washroom usage.
Oh yeah. That's less important for the purposes of like energy forecasting though. And the other space where AI has become like fairly central recently has been in the development of like smart homes. So like if you're some initiatives in that space of like forecast things like when to turn on the heating, like so that it's warm when you're there, but not like when you're not. So and those kinds of initiatives can save a household something around on the order of like 30% of their energy usage.
Wow, fascinating. I think we're almost at time. So again, there's a ton happening here. We've got 8,000 people here from around the world. When you look at kind of how AI and energy are working together, looking out a little bit into the future, and again, don't want you to violate NDAs, so don't talk about things you're actually maybe working on today, but what excites you about what's coming next in the transition to net zero and the role that AI can play?
What excites me? So, one of the things that excites me most is just like just broadly speaking, the access to data like that is being facilitated by the Internet of Things. So that means that there's going to be like information at like a finer grain scale that like we've never really seen before, which means that like we're going to be able to incorporate data to make like energy much more efficient and scalable.
Wow, that's amazing. And is there anything in particular during the show that you're looking forward to seeing, or conversations you're trying to have?
I come from a chemistry background, so I'm going to be very interested in seeing like what the new developments in like materials sciences are around hydrogen.
Yeah, fascinating. One of the things I would recommend, just doing a walk of the floor. There's actually a rocket engine that's
yes, I saw
looking
that.
at hydrogen, taking it to space, visiting some of the things that are here and just talking to some of the companies that are here from all over the world. It's just absolutely amazing. Okay, so David, thanks so much for this. Really appreciate
thanks for having me.
The work that you're doing, the work that the Alberta Machine Intelligence Institute is doing, the University of Alberta, truly is world-leading research, and we're just so lucky to have you and the team here. So thanks again.